When I was just a kid, around 9 or 10, my life took a dramatic turn. My dad landed a high-paying job that forced us to move from our small, run-down house in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, to Brookmont, Maryland. I say forced, but in reality, my parents were thrilled. For them, it was a dream come true. Within a month, we went from scraping by in a low-income area to living in a massive property in one of Maryland's nicest suburbs. I didn't have many friends to leave behind. I was a quiet, antisocial kid who preferred my own company. My parents later told me they saw the move as a fresh start for me, a chance to break out of my shell. But at the time, I didn't think much of it. The house was huge. The backyard was a paradise. And for the first time, I could tell we weren't struggling anymore. It felt like a new beginning. But little did I know, it was the start of something far more unsettling. The backyard was my favorite part of the new house. It was sprawling, with a maze of twisting hedges perfect for games of hide and seek. But the crown jewel was the treehouse. It wasn't your typical rickety wooden structure. It was a tree castle, spanning 6 or 7 trees with 3 levels and a proper staircase. My brothers, Sean and Harold, and I spent hours there every day, playing games and inventing adventures. But as they grew older, they lost interest, leaving me to play alone. I didn't mind at first, but the treehouse felt emptier without them. Then, one day, I found a folded piece of paper in the corner. It read, "Hello, I'm the Marshmallow Man. It's nice to meet you. What's your name?" I thought it was my brothers playing a prank. So I played along, leaving a note with my name. It was the start of a game that would soon turn into a nightmare. At first, the notes from the Marshmallow Man were innocent. They felt like something my brothers would write, asking simple questions like, "What's your favorite color?" or "Do you like playing outside?" I eagerly responded, hoping to lure them back into playing with me. But as the days went on, the notes grew stranger. The questions became more personal, like, "What's your favorite time of day to play outside?" Or, "What do you usually eat for breakfast?" Then came the one that made my stomach churn. "Which window in the house is your bedroom?" I still didn't think much of it, convinced it was my brothers. But when I confronted them, they denied everything, laughing at me for believing in a Marshmallow Man. That's when I realized something was terribly wrong. The notes kept coming, each one more unsettling than the last. The Marshmallow Man started asking bizarre questions like, "What do your pajamas smell like?" I felt a knot of fear in my stomach, but still answered, hoping it was just a twisted joke. Then, one night, I heard tapping at my bedroom window. I froze, my heart pounding. I was already scared of the dark, and the sound sent chills down my spine. I forced myself to sleep, but the next morning I found dozens of marshmallows taped to the outside of my window. I was furious, convinced it was my brothers. But that night, when the tapping started again, I yanked open the curtains and came face to face with a man. His yellow eyes and rotting teeth haunted me as he smiled. I screamed, and my parents came running. But by the time they arrived, he was gone. The tapping became a nightly occurrence. Each time I'd lie in bed, paralyzed with fear, until it stopped. My parents called the police, who searched the property and the treehouse, but they found nothing. The neighbors were horrified when they heard what had happened, but no one could explain it. The man with the yellow eyes vanished without a trace, leaving behind only the memory of his terrifying smile. My parents forbade me from playing in the treehouse, but I didn't need to be told. I never went back. Even now, years later, I can't shake the feeling that he's still out there, watching. The man with the yellow eyes became a recurring figure in my nightmares. His patchy hair, rotting teeth, and sinister smile haunted me long after the incident. The police took the notes as evidence, but I doubt they ever followed up. My parents tried to reassure me, but I could see the fear in their eyes. They knew something was wrong, even if they couldn't admit it. The treehouse, once my favorite place, became a symbol of terror. I moved out years ago, but my parents still live there. Every time I visit, I can't help but glance at the treehouse, half expecting to see him staring back at me. The police combed every inch of the property, but they found no trace of the man. They even searched the surrounding area, but it was as if he had vanished into thin air. My parents tried to downplay the incident, but I could tell they were shaken. The neighbors were equally disturbed, and for weeks the neighborhood was on edge. I told the police everything I could remember, but there wasn't much to go on. The notes were the only evidence, and even those were vague. To this day, I wonder who or what the Marshmallow Man really was. After the incident, the treehouse was off limits. My parents didn't have to tell me twice. I had no desire to go back. The once magical place had become a source of fear. I tried to forget about it, but the memory of the man with the yellow eyes lingered. Even now, as an adult, I can't shake the feeling that something sinister happened there. The treehouse still stands, a silent reminder of the terror I experienced as a child. Years later, my son Luke had his own encounter with the unknown. He started talking about an imaginary friend named Jake, who only played in the treehouse. At first, I thought it was cute, but as Luke spent more time up there, I grew concerned. He wasn't bringing toys or games, just his imagination. When I asked him about it, he said Jake was shy and didn't like coming inside. It was strange, but I brushed it off as a phase. Then, one day, Luke came home with a black eye. When I asked what happened, he said he'd gotten into a fight with Jake. That's when I knew something was wrong. I decided to investigate the treehouse myself. What I found made my stomach churn. Scattered around were children's socks, sneakers, and food wrappers, none of which belonged to Luke. The walls were covered in pencil drawings of wild animals, including a grotesque spider with a human face. I confronted Luke, who said Jake needed food to talk and was forgetful with his belongings. I forbade Luke from going back, but the damage was done. The treehouse, once a place of joy, had become a nightmare. Luke's black eye was the final straw. He claimed Jake had gotten angry when he refused to leave his family and join him in the woods. I was horrified. The police searched the area but found nothing. Luke never saw Jake again, but the experience left us all shaken. To this day, I don't know if Jake was a figment of Luke's imagination or something far more sinister. The treehouse was filled with unsettling clues, tattered shoes, food wrappers, and eerie drawings. The most disturbing was the spider with a human face, its eyes scratched out. I couldn't shake the feeling that something unnatural had been living there. The police found no evidence, but I knew what I'd seen. The treehouse was no longer a place of innocence. It was a portal to something dark. One evening, I saw a frail, dirty child climbing down from the treehouse. He wasn't one of the neighborhood kids. I chased him, but he disappeared into the woods. The police searched but found nothing. Luke later told them Jake claimed to be a magic boy who lived in the woods with animal friends. The thought of a child living in the forest was horrifying, but the idea of something supernatural was even worse. The police questioned Luke, who described Jake as a magic boy who wanted him to leave his family. They searched the woods but found no trace of Jake or his animal friends. The case remains unsolved, leaving us to wonder if Jake was a lost child or something far more sinister. The treehouse, once a place of joy, had become a symbol of fear. Years later, during a college break, I found myself back at my parents' house. The treehouse was still there, weathered but standing. One night I climbed up to smoke, seeking solace in the familiar space. But as I sat there, I noticed a light turn on in the house. Even though I was the only one home, my heart raced as I realized something was wrong. I watched in horror as 3 hooded figures circled the property. A 4th opened the door, letting them inside. I called the police, but before they arrived, one of the figures spotted me. He started climbing the treehouse, determined to reach me. I threw my bong at him and he fell, retreating with the others. The police arrived soon after, but the experience left me shaken. The man climbed the treehouse steps, his eyes locked on me. I screamed that the police were coming, but he didn't stop. In a panic, I threw my bong, shattering it against his head. He fell, cursing, and ran back to the house. The others followed, disappearing into the night. I was left trembling, wondering what would have happened if he'd reached me. The police arrived quickly, but the robbers were gone. They'd known my parents would be out, but they hadn't planned on me being there. The experience left me terrified for my parents' safety. I returned to school, but I haven't slept well since. The treehouse, once a place of refuge, had become a source of fear once again. When I was a kid, I spent a night in the treehouse after a fight with my parents. I fell asleep, but woke to a deep voice calling my name. A shadowy figure climbed the ladder, claiming to be my dad. But when I screamed, my parents came running and the man disappeared. The police were called, but they never found him. To this day, I don't know who or what it was. Life. The man knew my name and seemed to be watching me. My parents believed me, and the police made a report, but no answers were ever found. The treehouse, once a place of joy, had become a symbol of fear. Even now, I can't shake the feeling that something sinister happened there.